Welcome to episode 9 of Diary of a Private Investigator. My name is Nathan and I am the owner of Dollis Investigations based in Sheffield and Doncaster in England. Welcome back to the show. Usual things of if you enjoy the show, please do like it, do subscribe to it and do tell your friends, make it grow. So, gonna break away with tradition on this podcast today. Normally what I would do is give you some little cheeky sound bites to get you hooked and make you want to listen to the rest of the podcast and sort of say, and in today's episode we're going to talk about this and we're going to talk about that, and then you're going to go, I want to listen to that, I'm going to listen to it. But this one's going to be a little bit different. This one's going to be a little bit more personal. Basically what's happened is with Diary of a Private Investigator, the reason it's called Diary of a Private Investigator was if ever I run out of stories or ideas, then I look at the month's events, the month's jobs that I've been working on, and from that I decide what it sort of triggers memories of jobs that I'm doing. Now, what I was going to do is obviously talk about what I'm working on at the moment, which I'll hit you with at the end of the episode, just to give you that bit of a hook to keep you listening, because I've got a couple of jobs bubbling at the moment, which is, shall we say, working in the adult entertainment sector. So I'll hit you with a story at the end regarding that one. But this month I was thinking, sometimes I'm driving around and I am a bit of a northern monkey, but actually I'm a little bit sophisticated as well at the same time. So sometimes I'll listen to classical music, and it's during those times that I get the inspiration for the next podcast. And 2 weeks ago, I was hitting a quiet period. Just because I have a podcast doesn't mean that I'm a millionaire and I've got loads of jobs and loads of people working for me. I hit a bit of a quiet patch for a number of reasons, and one of the reasons was my SEO company, who they look after my website. They dropped the ball in quite a significant way, and so I've gone down the rankings. I've gone from number sort of 3 and 4 down to number 8, which, for anybody who has a business and runs a website, you'll know that it's a little bit like the Premiership, where the top sort of 1 to 3 get 90% of the business, and the others sort of fight over the scraps. And then once you get onto page 2, I think you're picking up sort of whatever it is, less than 3% of the traffic, something like that. So that took a bit of a downturn, and as you know, I've got fingers in pies. I do other work. I do traveller evictions and enforcement work and things like that, and that seems to have taken a bit of a quiet turn periodically. So I actually hit the streets. I designed a leaflet, and I was going around Sheffield, Doncaster, Barnsley, and Rotherham, and Chesterfield, and I was actually delivering leaflets to solicitors over 3 days, 56 different solicitors. Wearing out the old shoe leather, meeting people, and when I was doing it, there's always that little voice in the back of your head saying to you, "Why are you doing this? Why are you doing it?" Like, they're not listening to you. They're not interested. Like, leaflets are a waste of time. Why doing it? And it's all about resilience and sort of overcoming the little voice in your head of you're going to fail, why do you even do it, why don't you just stay at home, why don't you just watch TV, why don't you just play your iPad? And so I was kind of contesting with that in my own head, and it just so happens that World Mental Health Day was the 10th of October, so I'd got that in my head as well. And then last month we had a question about, what's it like being a PI? And whenever you tell people that you're a PI, they're always going, "Oh, that's brilliant! I bet it's super exciting! I bet it's great!" And it is. Don't get me wrong; it is good. I do enjoy what I do, but it's like a lot of other jobs out there. There are sort of the mundane times, but also being self-employed, it can be quite lonely. It can be hard, and certainly when the work's not coming in, it gets harder still. And so I kind of had one of those moments where I was thinking, what should I talk about on the next show? And it kind of all melded into sort of one theme, really. I thought, well, last month we ended on a high about the covert stuff that I was doing in the police. And everything was great, and I was up for a chief constable's commendation, and on the back of that, I got promoted to detective sergeant. I used the evidence from that to sort of show off my skill sets and things like that. And then things took a turn. So you fast forward, 2 years from that point, and I suddenly find myself leaving the police, diagnosed with anxiety. Now, when you're a police officer, a cop, when everyone else sort of says to you, "Well, what do you do?" and you sort of say, "I'm in the job," and it's kind of a police term, and other police officers know what it means. Oh, I'm in the job. And actually, it's an ironic turn of phrase, because we all have, well, most of us have a job, but this is the job. And it's ironic because it's actually not just a job. It is the job. It's more than a job. It's who you are. When I joined the police, you have your interview and they're talking, oh, why do you want to be a police officer? And I dare say 95% of people who sat there go, oh, it's all about the community. I want to serve the community and I want to do good and blah. And I'm sure interviewers sat there going, oh God, I ain't heard that like for 10 minutes. But for me, it was more than a job. It defines you. It's who you are, and I was very much into it. Absolutely loved doing it. I was there for the greater good of things. I was there to put bad people in prison, hence becoming a detective and not a traffic cop. So yeah, I did really, really enjoy it. And you do sacrifice a lot of yourself to be a police officer. Not all police officers do. I was working with people who would start at 5 minutes to and leave at 5 minutes before the hour. And if that works for you, that works for you. But I was always the cop who, if a job came in, if a prisoner came in, then I was the one that stayed behind. And I didn't do it for the money. It wasn't about the overtime, because to be fair, the money isn't that good in the cops. At the time, I always thought it was a good screw. I always thought, yeah, I've got that job of dreams here, and I'm earning loads of money. And then you realise what other people earn, certainly in the private sector anyway. And you sort of think, well, actually, I'm not on that much good money. And then you sort of think about the pension. Oh, it's all about the pension, and it's brilliant. But I kind of. For me, it was about job satisfaction and doing the best job that I can. It was about the work ethic. I've got a couple of notes, and I'm just sort of looking down here. And one of the jobs that I was on, latterly, I was in the guns and gangs team, and there was a shooting in Doncaster, and there was a team of us that used to investigate all the gang sort of. There was guns and gangs. I suppose the title of the department gives it away, doesn't it, really? And there was always me and my mate Les. We would always be the ones who would sort of volunteer for stuff, and we'd be the ones who investigate it. And the rest of the team were more of a, I'll start at 8 o'clock, so I'll get there at 1 minute to 8, and I finish at 4, so I'll leave at 1 minute to 4, or 1 minute past 4. And it was something I could never understand, because I was sort of thinking, but surely we're here to do the best job we can. Like I said, we're here to serve the public, which is a little bit cliche. But for me, it always was. And a job came in for a shooting, and we sort of, I think it was always, with CID, there was a bit of a running joke about you do your best work when you're on overtime. We all took the piss out of each other's departments, and like I said, we took the piss out of traffic. They'd always wind the window down and go, leave you with it, kid, and drive off to go and have a pursuit or to do whatever. And then you'd have like Popo squad who would sit on the horses, and all they do is work football matches, and then CID with winkle pickers, all they do is go out and eat breakfast and work overtime. And there was sort of rivalry between all the different departments, and we all took the piss out of each other, to be fair. But I never understood the fact that just because it was like going home time, you could happily just down your tools and go home. And it was a bit weird. So anyway, a shooting comes in. So me and Les shoot off to Doncaster, and we do it all, and somebody gets locked up, and we're doing the interview and what have you. And the record, this was my personal record, to work a 22-hour shift. We started at 7 a.m, and we finished at, let's do maths here. I'm informative and entertaining here. So 22 hours he's finishing at 5 a.m. in the morning. So we're doing a job. We get this guy remanded. He's a dangerous criminal. He needs to be off the street. So we get it home. We finish at 5, drive home. I get home at 6 o'clock. snatch a couple of hours sleep, and I'm back at work at 10 o'clock in the morning, living on whatever 3 hours sleep. And you walk in and people are like, oh, what are you doing back? And you're like, well, I've got the file to do now. It's all very interesting in getting him remanded. Now we've got to do the investigation. And this is the unsexy part of going out, taking all the statements, reviewing all the CCTV, doing all the phone forensic, the submissions and everything that goes with it. And we went back and I think we did another 14-hour shift and sort of finished at midnight and then come back and do another whatever we did. I think we did 12 hours on the third shift. And then once we got it to a state where it was sort of almost complete or the main thrust of the investigation had been done, we then gone to days off. And you sort of, you look back on those times and you don't do it for thanks. You don't, I mean, nobody came up to us and went, oh, that was a great job. Thanks for staying on. Like your supervisors, they're not bothered. I mean, you don't do it for the thanks. You don't do it for the gratification. You do it for sort of what's in here. You know, he says, obviously, if you're listening to this, I'm banging my chest. You do it for the good. You don't do it for that. You don't do it for the commendation. It's just a bit of A4 paper at the end of the day. So with that work ethic, it's who you are. And I used to say that if you cut me in half, you'd sort of see SYP going through me like a stick of rock, South Yorkshire Police, because it's part of your identity. It's who you are. And I used to, the warrant card, I used to call it the badge of power, because you get out your badge of power and it entitled you to sort of certain things and certain powers. And obviously taking away somebody's freedom is quite a big responsibility. So when I left the police, and again, it sounds a little bit daft, but when I left, I had to hand over my warrant card, and it was like giving away a limb, because it was part of who you are, and you suddenly give that away, and you just have just an everyday wallet all of a sudden. And so I found, obviously, like I said, I'd got acute anxiety at that time. So I was in a bit of a dark place, don't mind admitting. At the end of the day, the mental health is more common these days. I think it's under the pressures of society that we're living in. I'm not going to go too deep. This is a bit of my story, and if you followed the previous episodes, then you've obviously invested time into this podcast, and you are interested in what I do and what I get up to. So if I'm turning you off now, I apologise. If you've sort of listened to this episode because you want to listen to all the Gucci stories that I get up to, this one is a bit more of a personal thread. But I think it's relevant because there are a lot of people out there that do suffer with various types of mental health, whether it's anxiety, depression, or whatever. And this is a bit of my story, and I've not really told many people this, so it is quite a personal one. So when I sort of left, I was sort of seeing a counsellor just before I left the police, and he told me a story about Churchill's dog. Now, obviously, there's only one Churchill, Winston Churchill, not the insurance company. There's Winston Churchill. So, disappointingly, I was doing a little bit of research on this, and it turns out it might actually have been a myth, and Churchill's black dog story, it might have just been sort of made up and what have you. But anyway, so the counsellor's saying to me, and he's sort of explaining that, and this is how I always visualise it, that you sat in a dark room, in a comfortable chair, and the log fire's crackling over in the corner, and sort of the door, it's always, for some reason, it's always to my left. The door opens ever so slightly, and there's a creak of light that comes into the room, and you sort of see it in your peripheral vision, and you know it's the black dog. The black dog's coming in, and the black dog is basically depression. And the black dog comes in, and you're aware it's there, and he sort of pads over to you, and you sort of reach down unconsciously with your left hand, and you sort of stroke its head because it's familiar, it's comfortable, and it's loving. And you're sort of stroking it without even thinking about it because you're staring at the fire. And the black dog, which is depression, sort of comes closer and nestles up to your leg, and then before you know it, it sort of jumps onto your lap. And for me, the black dog was always a Labrador, and the significance of that is because it's quite a heavy dog. And so when it sits on your lap, you feel the weight of the dog. It's not just there. It's like it's suddenly pushing you into the chair, and then you get to a point there where you're no longer stroking the dog, and the dog sort of comes up, and anyone who's got a dog, it kind of comes up and it puts a leg either side of your head, and then suddenly you've got the weight of the dog on your chest, and you suddenly start to struggle to breathe. And it's at that point where is this love? Is this love, or should I sort of push the dog away? And it's at that point where you obviously have to make a decision then what's good for you. And obviously the right thing to do is to get that dog off you and send that dog away again. And the point of the story is that's what depression does to you. So at the point where the door opens and you identify that the dog's entering the room, that is the point where you need to be aware that the dog's coming, because then you need to do what is good for you to send the dog away to get on with your life. And that story always stuck with me, because obviously, like I said, the legend goes is that Winston Churchill suffered with depression, bipolar or melancholy or whatever it is. So it was one of those stories that stuck with me, that whenever you are going through life and you get the indicators that something might be happening that's going to bring you down, identify it and do something about it. So I took that story with me. So, and like I say, I left the police, suddenly unemployed. And again, I'll just sort of gloss over. I'm not here to lecture. I'm not trained in psychology or depression or anxiety or anything like that. This is my story. This is what happened to me. If I can help somebody out there by telling this story, then great. That's basically the purpose of today's podcast. Nothing more, nothing less. But there are studies that have been done regarding unemployment, and in particular men. And men, whether it's a study, it shows significance. And I'm going to use a big word now because it's one of my favourite words I don't get to use very often. It's kind of an atavistic right. It goes back to time immemorial that men feel a sense of worth by working. They are the breadwinner, the provider. And I know we've got equal rights today and women can earn just as much as men and all that kind of business. But as a man, you can't get over that feeling that you are meant to be the breadwinner, the provider, the strong man. It's kind of what society, certainly my generation anyway, it's kind of how you brought up. That's being a man. And I get it's all changing, blah, 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 but we're talking about me, so stuff that. There's the part of the study that I was reading about was sort of saying that men who are unemployed, their risk of suicide doubles / triples because it affects men to a greater degree. Now, I'm only talking about unemployment here, so I'm not belittling mental health for females or anything like that. I'm basically just trying to tell the story that when you suddenly no longer working as a man, it hits you hard. So obviously I was in a bit of a dark place, and again I'll always remember. Obviously you kind of drink a little bit more, which again you shouldn't drink because alcohol is a depressant, and so when you are depressed and you add a depressant, you become even more depressed. But that's all very well and good to say, oh, don't drink. But when you're sort of sat in the house doing not a great deal other than trying to apply for jobs, and you don't even get a look in, and you're massively overqualified for jobs that you're going for, and you don't even get a letter of thanks or an interview or nothing, it's quite a dark place to be. And I'll always remember getting told off by the wife for going out and buying another bottle of gin because we couldn't afford the gin. And then you're in this turmoil then that you're like, but I want a drink, and then I can't afford a drink, and you're like, what do I do? What do I do? So anyway, without being too melancholy about it, I finish up getting a job. Get a job as an enforcement agent, and we go out. And I start working, and all is good, and I start earning lots of money, and that's great. And just looking down at my notes now, because at the time I was making notes of a book, and they say, whoever they are, they say that everybody has a book in them, and my book is titled From Hero to Zero and Back Again, because I went from the highs of being in the cops and doing all this great work and great stuff and living life as a high, and then all of a sudden, the higher you are, the further you fall, as the saying goes, and you sort of at an all-time low. But the good news is I'm back again, and I'm a business owner, and everything's brilliant, and I'm earning money, and all is well. All is well. But I just kind of wanted to just wend you away through the story of what happened to me, and there is always, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. I think this episode is going to be an episode of cliches. See how many cliches you can spot. We'll do cliche bingo, shall we? See how many sayings I can come out with. So I've kind of, again, I'm literally blasting through this, because this is a period. I'm not an expert in this, so I'm kind of blasting through it without. I don't want to start crying on a podcast. Flipping out. There was again. So about 2 months ago. About 2 years ago, when I sort of joined LinkedIn, when I set up my own business, and I sort of went onto LinkedIn and X and Facebook and all the rest of the stuff out there. There was a period where people were taking photographs of themselves crying. They would just like be sat in the car and crying, and then they take a photograph of themselves going, "Oh, I'm so depressed." And yeah, I suppose the way I've just put that across, I am a little bit belittling, but I just kind of just think, I get it. I get the message that you're trying to send, but for me, that was never right. Like I said, this is the first time I've actually openly spoke about this. And I suppose you do whatever's good for you, but I just felt it was a little bit insincere, because it was about the same time that we'd be visiting homeless people and giving them meals, and then having a photograph of them handing a $5 to a homeless person. And I'm very, very cynical by the nature of who I am and what I've done for a living, and I just I see through that and go, if you're giving money to charity or you're giving money to the homeless people, then do you need to brag about it? Do you need to put a photograph on LinkedIn about it? It didn't really sit well with me. Like I say, whether the people disagree with me, whether this is going to evoke some response, then I don't know. But this is my podcast, as I've said before. So I'm going to say what my thoughts are on the matter. So it's not one for me to do that. Now, having said that, there are people out there that will go on LinkedIn and on Facebook and just basically put "feeling down today," and that does resonate with me. That does mean something when people are brave enough to put something like that on, that they're struggling. And more often than not, they'll get a response from me, and I'll contact them directly. I'll DM them. I won't put on openly, "Oh, I empathise with what you're going through, and I went through something else." I don't need people to know about my life, he said, completely ironically, talking about it on a podcast. That's something that I will contact them directly and sort of say, "Look, if you need a help, if you need a friend, I'm here. Give us a ring. Let's have a chat about it." So I get that. There's a difference between sort of asking for help and taking a photograph of yourself sat there crying. But whatever. Let's move on, just in case I offend somebody. Woe betide. So I just wanted to share a couple of things that I went through that helped me get through it. And again, I almost bore myself sometimes when I'm talking about stuff like this, because you'll be like, because I listen to all these podcasts out there, and ironically enough, this is where it all comes from, because the podcasts that I chose to listen to when I left were all motivational kind of podcasts, all about being positive and all that kind of business, and not getting into the I get up at 5 a.m. and have an ice bath and go for a 10-mile run and then start work and be done by 10 o'clock and all that kind of garbage that all these superhero people who earn millions of pounds do. Just Joe Average, get up type thing. But I surround myself by sort of positive podcasts and what you can do. And they obviously talk about the benefits of exercise. And in my day, I was a bit of a runner. I've run marathons. I know, obviously I've put a bit of chumber on since then. But in my day, I've run marathons. So I used to go for runs. But when you go for a run, you kind of lose yourself. And what I found is every time I went for this run, I would start telling the story and I would write the book from hero to zero and back again. And you have to stop yourself from doing it, because you're kind of putting yourself back in that mindset all the time. And going back to sort of Churchill's dog, when you identify the fact that you're going there, you need to stop yourself from going there. And even thinking about this episode, as I have been doing for the last 2 weeks, I've actually said this episode in my head now numerous times. And whenever it comes to late at night and I'm talking about this episode, I can't sleep, because you put yourself back in that time. So you need to be aware of what you're doing and not go back to it. So the exercise, the running was good, but then you go to weights, because when you're lifting weights, you don't have time to sort of start thinking about the stories and I should have done this and I could have done that, and if only this had happened. You're too concerned with the heavy weights obviously the heavy weights that you're lifting, and 50 kilogram barbell. So you think about that. So obviously there's lots of benefits that's come with exercise, but anybody that's ever listened to anything to do with mental health will know that exercise is a benefit. So I got quite fit back at the time. Positive thinking. So I've just mentioned podcasts. Surround yourself with positivity. And what I used to do is I used to listen to songs. I'm not really religious, but I am an Elvis Presley fan. So there's an Elvis Presley song out there about help me and Lord, help me walk another mile and all that kind of business. And I am a bit of an enigma, because I actually like musicals as well. Go, 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 Joseph, you know what they say. I was sort of listening to that one, and you listen to the words, and I would always advocate having a playlist of positive songs and songs with good beat, not songs that are going to bring you down about, oh my God, my dog's dead and I'm so depressed and all that kind of business. Listen to positive songs and good songs that get you motivated. And if you surround yourself with positivity, it does rub off on you. And when I sort of left the police, the people would sort of say, oh, you're missing the police and stuff like that. And start saying, oh yeah, I miss it. It was good times. You turn around and go, no, I don't miss it at all, actually. I don't miss night shifts. I don't miss cancelled weekly leaves. I don't miss only getting one day off over Christmas. I don't miss, even though I'm a detective, I have to go and put a uniform on just because Sheffield Wednesday's playing Sheffield United and stand in the freezing cold watching absolute garbage football. I don't miss working overtime. I don't miss ringing the wife up at 5 to 4 and say, do you know, I was meant to be finishing at 4 o'clock. Actually, I'm not, and I'll be home whenever I'm home. You don't miss dealing with the criminals and the threats. I don't miss the visceral sights that you see as a police officer. And what I did is I conditioned my brain to be positive about where I am now. I'm self-employed. I get to choose the hours that I work. I get to choose the jobs I want to work on. If I'm going to work nights or weekends, then I choose a remuneration rate that benefits me. If I need to take time off to look after my family members, whoever they are, I take the time off. I can pick and choose. And I've very quickly, over time, developed a very, very positive attitude. And I try to look for the benefits in everything. There's always the downside. I've become a glass half full kind of person since this, because you can dwell of, oh, if this had happened and if that had happened and I should have done this and I should. You can't change the past. The past is what it is. To err is human. Alexander Pope. There you go. I do actually do a little bit of research for this podcast. I don't just make it all up on the fly. I tell Adam that I sit in the car outside thinking about what to say, but actually I do a little bit of research. To err is human. To forgive is divine. But there's another one that I wrote down. Do not be defined by who you were. I made that up. That's a quote by Nathan Hoole. There's lots of similar ones about being defined about your past and stuff like that. But we all make mistakes, basically. We all. I'm going to swear. It's my podcast. I'm going to swear. Quick, cover your ears up. We all fuck up sometimes. Apart from my wife, she never does. She's obviously perfect, which is why I married her. But most of us humans out there, we do make mistakes, and it happens. And one of the bits of advice that I got when I was in my dark moment was because I would obviously part of being suffering with anxiety is you become hypersensitive to everything, all the surroundings, and you walk around and you look at people and you go, they know I don't work. They know about this. They know about that, and you become super hypersensitive, and it's exhausting to a point that you just get physically tired with it, and you're overthinking everything. And a friend of mine sort of said, look, everybody's got their own worries, that everybody's living in their own world, consumed by their own problems, and that you look at somebody and they're worrying about the relationship. You look at somebody else, they're worried about a relative that's got cancer. Somebody else is worried about the job. Somebody else is worried that the car's broke down and they can't afford to repair it. And everybody's got problems. So the sooner that you realise that people aren't really that interested if you've got a problem, you don't sit on a bus and sit the person outside of you and start going, oh, guess what's happened to me? Like, people be sat there with their own worries and their own set. It's what we are. What we are. It's what we are. I've gone all posh all of a sudden. It's what we are. So the sooner you realise that a lot of us out there have got these, I'm not going to say issues because I don't want to over-egg it, like basically, we've all got mental health problems. I suppose it's like being on the spectrum, isn't it? I suppose everybody's on the spectrum. It's just to what degree you're on the spectrum. Everybody's got problems. It's just what degree your problems are. But it's also how you let it affect you. And so the point I'm trying to make is try not to let it affect you as much, because everybody's got the problems, and it is normal. One of the things that I wrote down, because I was looking at websites at the time, and it gives you key phrases and mindsets on what to say and what not to say. And again, one of the things that sticks in my head was one of the things that you don't say to somebody who's suffering with depression or anxiety or any other kind of mental health or anything like that is, there's always somebody worse, There's always somebody worse than you. You don't say that, because when you are feeling bad, you don't really care what everybody else is feeling, because you're feeling pretty bad. So that's something that always stuck with me. Don't ever say to someone, like, it could be worse, because when you're in that hole, you can't really get much worse. So you sort of, there's listening things. And something else I've sort of taken away from this part of my life is that people actually want to help. People want to help you. And it's a big thing asking for help. It's actually bigger than receiving help. So like I said, if somebody puts on Facebook, I'm feeling a bit down, then I'll be the first to direct message them and say, well, can I help you? Can I help you? Because let's face it, when you help somebody, there is an altruistic goodness about it. You feel good about helping somebody. You don't have to tell everybody, oh, look at this, I helped. Going back to this story is going off, but just because you help a homeless person, you don't have to advertise that fact, because the goodness that you get from it personally is by doing the help, not by the fact that you've took a photograph of it or you've told people. So when you help people want to help. So don't ever be afraid to ask for help. And trust me when I say this, people will be willing to help you. People will go the extra mile and look after you. So do talk to people. And again, when you write down, talk to people, it's being hammered home on the TV, or make sure you talk to people. And like I say, I don't want to bore you or regurgitate stuff that's already out there. I just kind of want to sort of, I suppose, hammer home the point that if you open up to people, people will listen. And that, again, that's a key skill, that listening is what you should do. When somebody comes to you and says, hi, I have a problem, you don't give them the advice, you listen to what they have to say. And then if they want the advice, or you kind of come around in a roundabout way, what I would say is if you know anybody who sort of suffers with any of this, what I'm sort of describing, is do your research. There's great websites out there. It tells you what to say, what not to say, what to do. And there's obviously places for advice and things like that. Moving on, I went to New York this year. That's a tangent, isn't it? I went to New York this year with the family. And on the tour, they were talking about Alcoholics Anonymous, AA, and part of the principles and stuff like that. And I'm pretty certain it was invented, or the guy that founded the AA was over in New York. And I heard I can't remember if it was on the tour or somewhere else. Now there are 12 principles within the AA service about how you can recover from being an alcoholic. And the last one, and the most important one, and the only way that I can't, like I said, I'm kind of summarising what the principles are and their ethos and what have you. But the last one is the most important. You can't get signed off or be cured or whatever it is they say. And it's service. And what they're saying is do you know how you have a sponsor when you're in the AA? There's somebody who's there to help you. And what they believe is that to do the 12th principle of service is giving back to the community, because that helps you when you are supporting somebody else. So they identified that to give and to help and to serve other people is to your benefit. So there are benefits out there to helping people. Last bit of story, because I'm just if anybody can see these notes that I write down, they're all over the shank. They're just like I literally, my brain is like blah 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 blah, and I just write all this stuff down. So I'm just like skim reading and talking, and we generally do this in one take as well. I was thinking about this on the way down, is that I would imagine a lot of these podcasts are like break right now, say this. I just go off on one, and then about an hour later I'm done, and poor old Adam has to do the edits and make me look good. So as a man, I have cried in my life probably less than 5 times, maybe less than 3 times. Because I have, again, as a man of a certain generation, men don't cry. So I've kind of trained myself not to cry, because if you cry, that's a sign of weakness. So when I'd no longer got a job and I'm sat on the settee and I'm feeling particularly down about things, and there's just me in the house and the dog's on the other settee. I've got a little Shih Tzu, because obviously I'm a real man. Real men have Shih Tzus. The Shih Tzu's on the other settee, sort of curled up, and I'm sat there and I'm thinking, and you're just feeling proper sorry for yourself, like proper sorry is more than just sorry. I like proper sorry. Sat there like this is shit, and I'm feeling really sad, and I start to well up, and I think, do you know what, I'm gonna have a cry. So I go, I don't know how to cry. I'm like wanting to cry and I can't cry. I'm like making all these stupid noises, and obviously dog sits up from settee, and I'm like, what's them stupid noises? Like, is there another dog making love somewhere? What's going off? And I'm going, and I'm thinking, I can't cry. And then dog comes over, and this almost made me cry in itself, because dog comes over, and obviously all dogs do is just shit and give you love. Unfortunately, she'd already been for a walk that morning, so she came over and she just obviously puts her head on my lap and gives me some love, because she can obviously tell I'm in a world of pain, and I'm going making all these stupid noises. So obviously I hadn't re-taught myself to cry, because I ain't cried since. But yeah, just weird things that us as men folk get up to. So anyway, let's fast forward. Let's bring the beat up. Let's bring the beat up. Takeaways: be positive. Do you miss the cops? No, I don't. Am I better off now? Yes, I am. Why are you better off? Because all the benefits of being self-employed, that you choose your hours, you choose your jobs, you earn more money, you do better. Oh, you earn more money, do you, Nathan? You do all right, do you? Leads me on to my next topic, moving swiftly on. Happiness. How do you define happiness? Do you define your happiness because you earn X amount of pounds? The answer should be no. You define your happiness by your health, your family, doing what you enjoy. That is where you get the happiness. For far too long in my life, I am guilty of trying to show my children that to be a good person, to be a good father figure, is you have to go out, you have to earn the money, you work the hours, you've got a good work ethic. I'm sure my children respect me for that, But if you ask them, would you rather have a father who had a good work ethic, or would you rather have a father who was around you? Then kids are going to turn around and say, I'd rather have a father who was around me. There were times in the police where I would miss school plays, I would miss sports days, I would miss birthdays, I'd miss loads, not by my own choice, but because the job dictated to me that I needed to be at work on those days. Now I don't have to do that. I can be there with my family. So that's where I define happiness. So I'm passing that message on because I'm all about the giving. I'm passing that message on to people out there that when you define happiness, it's not about the pound sign. Couple of things that I take away. So there's a story about happiness, and there was a study done, and it was about how much you earn. This is obviously stolen from another podcast of a similar name to mine, so I'll give credit to them if he's listening. There was a study done, and they looked at earnings on how much you need to earn until you are happy. Now, the people that were the most happy were the people that earn up to £75,000. Because the question was, or I'm sure it was a big study, but part of the questions was, how much do you need to earn to be happy? And what they found is that the people that earn more than £75,000 a year, so say, for example, you earn 150k a year, they turned around and said, and it was generally double. Like I say, I'm summarising what the study was, but they would turn around and say, well, when I earn £300,000 a year, then I'll be happy. But that went on. It didn't just stop it didn't like cap off. So the people that earn £1 million a year were asked the same question. And they said, yeah, when I earn £2 million a year, then I'll be happy. Ad infinitum. So the point is, you will never be happy. If you are chasing the next amount, a lot of money, you will then therefore never be happy. So you need to so the people obviously that earn sort of less than 75 kind of, I won't say accept where they are, but for me as a business person and a person who I am, I am happy, he says, telling you how much he earns. I'm in that bracket of being happy because I just think, do you know what? I could work more hours, I could charge more, I could have more people working for me, and I could grow the business, and I could do that. But do you know what? At the end of the day, I would drive a slightly nicer car. I might have a slightly bigger house. I might go on a slightly better holiday. But I'd have all the stresses and all the pressures of doing all this and trying to achieve it all. And for what? Because a car gets you from A to B. A holiday's great because it's a holiday and it's not working. So it doesn't actually change anything. So for me, you kind of just have to just sort of sit back and relax and sort of think, right, what I've achieved in life? Where am I? Am I happy? Yeah, I am actually pretty happy. Another study that was done about the endomorphines that go through your brain when you buy a new car. And what they were saying is that if you buy a new car, and that is a new car to you, obviously there's whatever it is, the scale of happiness, you obviously get all these endomorphines and you're really happy because you've got a new car. Now, what they found is that the value of the car did not change your happiness. So if you are a millionaire and you buy a new whatever Lamborghini now, then you are going to be pretty happy. If you own a Ford Escort and you go out and buy a Qashqai, you are going to be pretty happy. You are still happy. So what you got to remember is that it's not the money that makes you happy. It's the having the new car. It's being with the family and things like that. So for me as a business person, you sort of reassess where you are. And obviously I'm at a time in my life now, he said, just about to drop dead on the microphone because I'm proper old. You kind of just have to think, do you know what? We do all right. I'm pretty happy now. Think things are good. So going on to the question that was asked last month, he says, pointing over there for anybody listening on you, for anybody watching on YouTube, I'm just pointing over there because that indicates last month. Anybody who was listening last month, there's obviously a question about what's it like being a PI. Is it good? Is it a business opportunity? Yes, it is good. It's self-employment, and I'm still not used to being self-employed. I still, every Sunday, think, what work have I got on this week? Am I going to earn enough money to pay my mortgage? Am I going to earn enough money to put food on the table and this, that, and the other? And I've been doing this now 6 years, and touch wood, I still earn enough money to pay the mortgage and to put food on the table, but it doesn't stop me worrying. So it's a mindset. and all you have to do is adapt your mindset from being employed and getting the money, no matter how well in the cops, no matter how good you are and how hard you work, you generally earn the same as the people who work the balls off compared to the people who do the absolute bare minimum. It's a set salary. You generally get the same amount of money. Not that I'm bitter and twisted about some of the people that I work with. Moving on. So when you're self-employed, the difference is that when you have the same work ethic of working like a dog and putting the hours in, then because it's your business, you get rewarded tenfold. So it's good. So as long as you've got so being an ex-cop, moving on to being ex-cops and what you're going to do in life, because all I've ever did was investigate, is if you've got the strong work ethic of working hard, then you will succeed in business, in my humble opinion. So is it good being a private investigator? Is it good running your own business? Yes. Would you go back to the cops? No. You can't. If you're watching Chief Constable, you can't afford me. I won't go back for love and money now, because I've seen the light at the end of the tunnel, and the light is good. So he said, moving on, forgetting where the hell he was. So the point I'm trying to make is that we all make mistakes, or things happen to us that we have no control over. It's called life, but just identify it. Identify things that help you move on and go with it. And I am here. I do have an email address, diaryofaprivateinvestigator@gmail.com. So if anybody's out there listening to what I've said and it makes sense and it clicks, ping me an email. You do get me replying. You don't get AI replying, giving you a standard response. It is me that replies to you. I'm always happy to get emails and to respond, so I know people are actually listening to me and I'm not just sat here talking to a microphone and Adam. Right, last story. Let's pick this mood up. Let's leave you on a high. Let's leave you with a titter and a giggle. So, like I said, I can't tell you what I'm working on at the moment, but it does involve adult work, if you know what I mean. So I get a job the other year, and I'll start the story by saying, do you know who the Chuckle Brothers are? If you don't know who the Chuckle Brothers are, you need to Google the Chuckle Brothers. I think they're from Rotherham, actually, my neck of the woods. And I'm all about entertainment and information, the informative part. There's actually 3 Chuckle Brothers, and the third Chuckle Brother is a children's entertainer. He's not the famous duo. He went off and he came to do one of my kids' parties sort of 10, 15 years ago. And when he walks in, he clearly looks like the Chuckle Brothers have got the same, should we say, gene pool. And they look very, very similar. And he walks in, you're like, he's one of Chuckle Brothers, but he's obviously like the fifth Beatle. And you're like, or is he? So I don't know what happened. I don't know what the history is there, whether he chose to be a children's entertainer in his own right, or whether there was a bit of fallout or what, I don't know. But yeah, so anyways, there's 2 Chuckle Brothers on TV, and they're like, to you, to me, to you, to you. And they've had a ladder, and they'd like a bit like the Laurel and Hardy of the modern day, like all this slapstick humour. So the point is just remember who they are. To you, to me, to you, to me. So I get this job, and it's from a landlord, and he has a certain tenant in his accommodation who he believes is a sex worker. So he tasked me with finding out whether she's a sex worker, and therefore, if she is and she's using the accommodation for a place of employment, she's in breach of a tenancy, and therefore he can evict her, because he kind of knows she is. He's getting complaints. He's getting noise complaints from the neighbours. Bit of bed knocking kind of noises, things like that. You know, people hurt the toe, going ooh 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 ooh, I've hurt my toe. So there's all this kind of stuff. So I do the research, and I managed to find her on a certain adult website where she's looking into the camera, all glamorous and sexual and showing off a bit of cleavage. And I managed to get hold of the CCTV from where she lives and works. And let's just say the image of her in real life compared to the image that you see on this website, if she was a meal and that meal came out and got put on your table, you would send it back. it was not as described. And anybody who remembers Bella Emberg from the Russ Abbott show, she was very, very similar to good old Bella Emberg. Bless her socks. Yeah, she was a bit rough. So anyway, I locate her, I find her on the adult site. So I'm then tasked with obviously ringing her up to prove that she is in the sex industry. So I ring her up and I'm sort of saying, and bearing in mind, I've told the lady wife what I'm doing. So lady wife is sat at the side of me because, like I said, no secrets in our house. So I'm sort of saying, look, I need to ring this woman up and I need to go down the old talking about the sexual sort of stuff. So if there's any young kids listening, tell them to turn it off at this point because we might get a little bit risque. So I make the phone call and I'm like, hello there. Let's just call her Sandra for the point. Hello, is that Sandra? Yeah, it is. Hi, Sandra. Right, obviously, I'm after a bit of as your father. Like, do you do it? And she's like, yeah, I do that. So I'm like, all right, okay. So do you do bareback or do I have to wear a condom? And she's going, oh no, you got to wear a condom. You got to wear a condom. So, all right, yeah. So what about oral? Like, do you do oral without or with? And she's like, well, obviously she's common as well, love, as long as you're clean, I'll suck it. And you're like, oh, for God's sake. And you're like, and our lass is looking at me thinking, oh my dears. And I'm going, all right, yeah, so don't worry about it, I'll have a shower before I come. Oh, that's all right then. So obviously at the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I need to prove a noise complaint here. So I says to her, oh, like, do you do like BDSM and stuff like that? Yeah, I'll do all you want as long as you're paying me. All right, lovely. So I says, you're into spanking. And our lass is looking at me thinking, why are you asking if you're into spanking? And I'm like, wait, I've got to prove a noise complaint. Obviously, if you're getting spanked, you're shouting and stuff like that. I'm like, shut up, leave me alone. I'm talking to Sandra here. And she says, to you to me or me to you? So I'm like, to me? He's like, oh, yeah, I'll do to you. I'm like, all right, good then. So he's like sat there having a bit of a titter. So we go down this front. So obviously we get the job proven and I do the evidence and I supply the audio to the client and the client sort of falling over laughing with the phrases and the points. But obviously you got points to prove, haven't you? You got to ask these questions because at the end of the day it was a noise complaint. You need to work out what kind of noises are coming from this flat. So I'll leave you with that one, guys and gals. I'm going to wrap this one up. It's been, like I said, it's been a bit of a personal journey, a personal story. If I've turned you off because all you want to do is listen to the good stuff, then I apologise. But hopefully, I've put a bit of good back into the world. I've made a few people think, and that's what this is all about. We'll be back next month with another episode of stories that we get up to and what have you. Probably get a guest on just to mix it all back up. Gonna leave you with the usual stuff of, if you have enjoyed it, please do leave a positive like, do subscribe, do tell your friends about it. Obviously the podcast is growing. If you want to drop me an email, drop me an email. Thanks for listening and I'll speak to you all next month.